Two prayer events sponsored by the U.S. military and two cancellations on prominent Christian leaders. In recent weeks, Tony Perkins and Reverend Franklin Graham were both disinvited from speaking at prayer events led by the Air Force and the Army. These rejections have prompted an outcry from conservatives. And now one congressman is calling for an investigation and hearings. With us now is that Congressman, Georgia Representative Jack Kingston. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Good morning, Gretchen.
All right, so you flat out make the accusation that the Department of Defense is becoming too PC by disinviting two Christian speakers, right?
Yes, and when you uninvite people as high profile as Tony Perkins and Franklin Graham, you're sending a very strong message to all the rank and file military chaplains that certain messages which the Pentagon has deemed controversial, that they are no longer welcomed. And so the message to military chaplains is to keep it in the middle of the road, give Hallmark greeting card type prayers and sermons, don't offend anybody, don't really get into the tenets of your religion because it might be considered controversial.
Well, how do you keep Christianity in the middle of the road? I mean, you either say, "Dear God," and say a prayer, or you don't.
Well, that's true, and you either fervently believe as a military chaplain in what you're espousing or you don't. It's interesting that the Department of Defense has a directive. It's 1300.17, and it says that just as the U.S. Constitution does not allow the prohibition of the exercise of free religion, the Department of Defense honors that and allows military chaplains to exercise free religion, but these decisions show that's not the case.
All right, so who do you blame, or who do you think is behind, blame's too strong a word, who do you think is behind this supposed mission to not have Christianity involved with the military?
Well, I think that the Commander-in-Chief has sent a very ambivalent message out there. And when Franklin Graham was disinvited to speak at National Day of Prayer, even though he's the honorary chairman of the task force, one of the things that he was told is that the message is offensive and incompatible with two members of the military and the Commander-in-Chief. So I think the Pentagon is trying to reflect views which they believe the White House has. Interestingly
enough, though, Franklin Graham did have some comments about Islam, and that was factored into his disinvitation. But let me ask you this. What do you want done? You were calling for hearings, but what will happen in those hearings?
Well, I think what we need to do is look into the military directive on the exercise of free religion by members of the chaplain corps. What does that mean, this directive 1300.17? Is the military going to follow it or not? And then there's other issues that I think the Air Force, they have their own code. It's 52101 that says you can't interfere with the free exercise of religion. And I think in the hearing that if these decisions are going to be made to change or modify this, it actually should be done by the elected members of Congress who have a constituency rather than unelected members of the bureaucracy of the Pentagon. And so that, you know, people know this is going on, but it's not going to go on quietly.
It kind of reminds me, like, you're never half pregnant, kind of like you're not a half Christian. So if you're going to stand up and then talk about the religion, it's hard to do it without saying certain words. Congressman Jack Kingston, Republican.